Hello and welcome to Global Morning Weekend. It's an amazing weekend. I'm excited because the weather is really fair. And like you saw in the weather forecast, we're sitting here and looking pretty as always and looking handsome as always. I am Anita Patrick. It's good to have you on Global Morning. We can't wait to tell you what's happening. But before that, I have my co-host here with me in person of Mukhtar. Like I want him to look handsome, dashing because it's the weekend. Hello, Mukhtar.
Hi, good morning, Anita. Good morning to all our viewers. You're looking ravishing and colorful, honestly. Very colorful and beautiful.
Okay, I think the colors should be the rainbow colors so that we just work with them.
Of course, it's like you said, the weather is really fair.
Really,
and I think
fair.
you're in tune with the weather yourself.
I'm feeling the weather so well, and I'm so excited because it's Global Morning.
It is Global Morning.
We're here because we have rundown of activities which we want our guests, our viewers rather, to also be part of because we have a lot of lineup. We have newspaper review segment.
Certainly we do.
We also have taste and textures, so they're always coming through for us. And we also have
Did you know?
We need to find out the things we
Did
don't
you know?
about.
Yes.
And then we also have discussion segments where we'll talk about something about security where everyone is supposed to be a part of and gets involved in the conversation.
Certainly.
And we'll also look at our Super Eagles ahead of the World Cup qualifiers. Let's see, can we still get to the World Cup?
That question is $1 million question.
Okay. I have good
It's $1 million question.
Your guess is as good as mine. Let's keep our fingers crossed. But quickly, we'll head straight to our newspaper review segment where we'll bring you all the stories making headlines in our papers. So don't go anywhere. Stay with us. Like we told you, these are review segments, and we have rundown of stories making headways with all the papers. We have the Punch newspaper, we have Vanguard, we have the Weekend Trust, we also have the Nation newspaper, and This Day, and also Saturday Tribune. Those are newspapers we'll be looking at quickly, but let's quickly start with the Punch newspaper. Let's tell you what the Punch has boldly on its headline there, boldly written. It says, NSIB lied. We don't drink alcohol, smoke marijuana. That's coming from the regulator. That's the writer coming also saying the regulator rejects smear campaign claim rather. That story is coming with the indicted airpiece, co-pilots and cabin crew, where there's a report. I don't know what's been happening in the aviation sector. Mukhtar, we've talked about it several times.
Honestly, I think we need to have a probe of that sector because we've had one too many incidents. We had the incident with the lady, we had with Kamwan, and now we're having with these people.
It's not just these people. I saw a recent trend also where another airline was dragging a man out of the airline as well. And I'm wondering what's with the aviation sector with all of this happening around them. There's a lot of attention which needs
to be called.
It's not true. But if this is a claim, like they say, we should look at it. But if it's not, they need to pay attention to that sector. You can't have that kind of thing happening when you piloting people,
because these are people's lives you take, and you know the number of passengers. It's not like other medium of transport. They take large people, 300 and above, and then you want to put their life in jeopardy, even though it's a claim. So I think an investigation should be opened to see how true this claim is, and if people are found wanting, then they have to be dealt with decisively, so it will pass a message to other people not to err in this regard.
Okay, well, that's it with that particular story. Let's quickly move away from that and see other stories. We have with the Nepal uprising, government supporters counter protest calls in Nigeria.
We've seen people say, okay, Nepal has done the uprising, Nigeria should follow suit. But
we don't want
you know, of course.
No, if there's need for protest, yes, people should express their grievances, but dialogue is the best way to go about it. Because even with the crisis on the protests we saw there in Nepal, we saw that people have lost their lives who are trying to pursue a particular cause. So we shouldn't even embrace it.
Like you said, in democracy, we know that protest is part of it. You have the right to demonstrate, but how do you demonstrate? Peaceful demonstrations.
Yes.
You do it in a way that you don't vandalize properties. You do not kill people. Like in Nepal, the ex-prime minister's wife was burnt alive.
You can imagine that. And look at the burnt down the
house.
The house as well.
Yes.
So he doesn't speak well. He's also doing more harm than good. You are trying to make a case for yourself. At the same time, you're also causing more harm to you.
So Nigeria should please not follow in that way.
Let's not follow that.
We should not.
Let's move away from that and see what Dangote is saying. We know we've had the back and forth between Dangote and Nupeng. Dangote, there's Nupeng, Tom Marks, $18 billion refinery squanders. Well, that's the story there. Making around.
Of course, they've been accusing themselves back and forth. They say this is that, and he said, okay, fine. If you're saying this is it, bring evidence. Bring evidence.
Bring evidence. Well, move away from that, and we see what's happening in South Africa.
Yes, below the mass headline, you see this kicker saying, Nigerians in South Africa cry out. Women are giving birth on bare floor over xenophobia. And this is a very sad story because Nigeria as a nation, our foreign policy has always been Africa as the centerpiece, which means we'll be our brother's keeper. But the sad thing about this is the fact that those nations are not meeting us halfway, especially South Africa. We've seen a very bad example. And Nigeria has played a critical role in Africa's move to independence, including South Africa, of course. We saw the apartheid regime, and Nigeria was able to contribute to making South Africa a democracy that it is today. But this is how they pay us back. So I think Nigeria should just put Nigeria first, basically.
Nigeria should come first, and let's hope that the embassy is also doing their best at that point to ensure that Nigerians are safe, because we can't have women giving birth on bare floors. Doesn't make any sense.
It's really not nice.
It's really not nice at all. But let's see other stories. We also have a neighbor who trafficked my 2-year-old daughter to Italy and asked me to move on. Like Libya-based Nigerian woman speaking of there.
That is a very sad one.
That's a very terrible one. You can't.
You tell her to move on.
To move on how?
It's not possible.
Are you human at all?
Honestly, this is a very disturbing one, and I think the authorities involved, like the NIDCOM, even though they've been doing a bit of progress, I see them repatriating Nigerians from.
Lots of Nigerians.
Yes, so I think they should take up this case and make sure justice is served.
Exactly, justice needs to be served. Where we have to look at that. We can't have people trafficking people's children. Do you know what it means to go through the 9 months journey to give birth? Tell her to move on.
Like it's not a human being we're talking about here.
That's not good at all. But let's move away from that story and look at one story just below before we go to the one of Charlie. We have resident doctors strike cripples federal hospitals. Well, it's been the back and forth as well with the medical doctors asking for their pay, and this is not helping because we have a lot of health challenges here and there, and if the resident doctors are not there to meet up with the needs of people.
The issue is in Nigeria, we already have a shortage of doctors. We see doctors leaving Nigeria every day for greener pastures, and the ones that are here are on strike. That's crippling the health sector, and it's not nice for Nigerians.
It's not nice for Nigeria.
And even Nigeria as a country.
It's not nice at all. Well, see other stories still on the foreign side.
Above that headline, we'll see a foreign story which says, Charlie Kirk, United States targets foreigners celebrating his killing.
no matter what somebody has done or who he is, I don't see the death of one person being something that should call for an incitement.
It's not, because death is something that all of us would have to face. We all would have
at some
our
point.
time. So if you celebrate someone's death today, who knows if you're next? So it's not a good one, regardless of how bad the person is, like you said.
Are you the judge? You can't be a
God
judge.
is the ultimate judge at the end of the day. So we are not in the right
but
place.
the good
to
news
pass
about
judgment.
that's
The people have been apprehended.
they've
of course.
apprehended us actually.
Yes.
Okay, let's move over to see what young minds are doing. The Gen Zs are really making us proud,
Yes,
and
yeah.
Hilda Bache has actually set out to set another record breaking for the Guinness Book.
Yes.
And Hilda Bache is has cooked largest pot of jollof rice in the second shot at the world record. She's trying to break the record. I watched a video of her where she was saying, Nigeria, ours is the jollof rice, so she needs to make it go viral. People need to see, but in a larger quantity.
Of course, and that's a milestone that is commendable.
Yes,
and
it
Hilda
is.
Baci has been a trailblazer in that regard, and I hope the Guinness World Record will certify it and give her a record.
We pray it certifies it, because it's also giving Nigeria an edge, giving us a name for ourselves
Of course.
as a nation. Well done, Hilda Bache. Well done. Let's move away from Saturday Punch and tell you other stories making the rounds with Saturday Vanguard. We have Saturday Vanguard there, with its own story that comes differently from the Punch. The Saturday Vanguard has its major headline screaming there, says, how Nigeria spends 981.5 billion naira on 7 polls, with a writer that says holds one of the most expensive balloting globally, more funds, elections, gulp, less credible the results are.
Election matters. Well, for me, I don't have an issue with you spending large sums of money on elections, because even world over, elections are not cheap.
Elections are not
For you
cheap.
to get elections right, you need to invest funds. But the question is, are those funds commensurate with the result, with the outcome? That's the question now.
Well, I don't sound like I'm the mouthpiece for INEC right now, but
Yes.
let's look at the procedures, the processes that's talking with Saturday Vanguard that comes out for electioneering, and also the Independent National Electoral Commission here.
INEC.
Election happens almost on a daily, if I put it that way, because for one, death is inevitable. One who is voting into office
Ways to find
always
voids in office that have to be
voids in
filled.
office that have to be
Yes.
filled, and this is cut across states, and
governments.
local governments and all that. So if you see the movements of how they need to spend, sometimes you also have incidences that happen, offices being bombed and all that. So all of those things are put in. I'm not trying to be the mouthpiece, but I'm just giving an instance to all of this, because like you say, how Nigeria spends this particular amount on
It's
7
a
polls.
huge amount.
It's a huge
It's a
amount.
huge amount.
But let's look at how much is given to them as well, because I know INEC at the point where they came to defend their budgets also spoke about the funds not even being enough, because they have ad hoc staff. The staffing for INEC is not also enough. You have to look for ad hoc staff who you pay after the electioneering
Certainly.
process that comes in. So when we're looking at all of this data, let's also look at where it goes into and the processes it takes also as well to go across.
And that's correct, but like you
Logistics
said,
is also involved.
logistics
It's
are
a
involved.
multi-stakeholder
But
one as
what
well.
about the results? Are we having, like we said, are we having value for our money? I think that's what we
Who
should
goes
ask.
out to cast the votes?
The
Who
people.
picks the people?
The
So
people.
we, the people, make our choices.
But are those choices, like some people have said,
Well, we'll find out in 2027
2027
where
is
Nigerians
just
will come
around
out
the corner.
to vote. It's no longer far from
It's
us.
not far.
We'll find out all of that if we get the results in terms of the money we spend in terms of election.
Certainly.
Well, let's
Moving
go to
away
the
from
stories.
that headline, you'd see this bold headline in the middle that says, corruption holding down our football. And that is Adoke Amasiamaka. And there's a writer that says, shocked Eagles struggling with Lesotho, Zimbabwe, Benin Republic in World Cup qualifiers. Another writer says, Nigerian media should make noise. Why I stopped watching I stopped writing a sports column rather, and that's from the veteran here.
Okay, well, if you see what's happening with Nigeria, with the road to the World Cup qualifiers and also to the World Cup, a lot of Nigerians are really, really sad. Everybody feels really bad because it's going to be our second shot missing out in the World Cup if we don't qualify this time around back to back.
Like you said, Nigeria has been seen as the giant of Africa in football, and we're not living to those expectations. There are high hopes resting on the shoulder of Nigeria as a football team. I remember at one point we were top 4 in the world.
Yes.
But now we've declined to places we should not be.
And then looking at the fact that sports right now has become an economy, it's something that generates revenue.
Massive revenue.
So if we miss out at the World Cup twice, that means we've lost out of FIFA's remuneration that have
It's a
come in
huge
for us.
cash.
It's a huge cash,
we're
which would have
actually-
helped our football development
Certainly.
and also give our boys an edge. So everybody is actually diving into this conversation and ensuring that we get it by all costs. Because looking at us, we are sitting at 11 points, or rather, is it 14 or 11 points right now? And
We're
we
fourth
have
on the table,
we are
and we
third
have
on the
third on
table,
the table, rather.
and we still have 2 matches to go. How convinced are Nigerians that these 2 matches ahead will give
I
us
heard
the
somebody
qualifiers?
say it's going to be easier for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle than
Okay.
for Nigeria to
There's a whole
qualify.
lot of conversation around this, and we hope that the Super Eagles and the administrators will put in a lot of effort. But at the same time, let's also look at the issue of pressure being mounted on the players themselves.
Yes.
It is also a thing of concern because all of this conversation is also helping their psychology.
That's true, but don't forget they're internationals. These
Okay.
people are not amateurs.
They're not amateur,
They're
they're
people that have seen it all.
They are in the elite class, of course, and they
Of
understand
course,
it
so
better.
pressure is not something that should get to you as an elite footballer. It's something that
to
you
give
should
you
be able to manage.
results is
Yes,
what matters.
result, your
Okay.
efforts, but results.
Let's hope that the results comes out. But let's move away from sports before we begin the sports program. Let's quickly tell you other stories. Ekiti needs a rescuer. That's coming from Kayode Ojo, and that story is on page 26 there of the Vanguard newspaper.
And below that, we have on page 18 of the Vanguard a headline that says drugs, sex, everything available in Nigerian prison, and that is Agba Jalingo.
Okay, let's move away from that. I don't want to even dwell on that conversation right now.
Yes, going below the headlines, you would see this one that says 5 days to Fubara's return. ING, Pandev, Masob set agenda for inclusivity, and that is on page 20 of the Vanguard newspaper.
But this is one interesting story that it sounds downplayed, but I don't understand. For 7 years, I sold pepper soup prepared with stolen meat at my beer joint suspects.
I can't help but
I'm just trying to get this. For 7 years, he was stealing
pepper soup,
goat
goat meat.
goat meat to sell pepper soup in it, and people were buying. No, so how come the money you're generating from the sales you can't buy?
That's great. That shows you it's not about the money. This
So
is
you
pure.
see how people don't get to set the pace right when it comes to being orderly or having a good character.
That's why people blame governments. I don't always toe that line most times. I always say it's a double-edged sword. We are also governments. If you can do this, which means if this person
If you're given an opportunity to lead,
you already took the word out of my
you're already
mouth.
stealing from
If
where
you can steal goat meat,
your neighbor
public
that,
fund.
that is actually breeding the goat for his own means. So you steal goat, you buy the sauce, the whatever, and you prepare it and you sell for 7 years.
It's crazy.
Okay,
That's
we'll
crazy.
talk about this more.
But one thing is, Nemesis always catches up.
That
He's
is-
been caught after 7
that
years.
is-
Regardless of how long you think you're going to
See,
take the
for
crime,
7
there's
years.
one day that's going
One
to
day
be
for
for
the
the own house.
Okay, all right. So let's move away from that story. I see the story making the headlines. At both the masses will have while Nigerians staff their governors clap at Jets. Well, there's a writer that says the godfathers who own Nigeria stop turning children into prayer warriors. Well, that story is on page 14 and 19 of the Vanguard newspaper. And that's it. Let's quickly move to other stories and see other stories with the Weekend Trust newspaper. The Weekend Trust also has its own
Bold
different headline, and it talks about greener
Japa.
pasture and Japa, the Japa syndrome. Do you know the interesting thing is people still travel. People still want the greener pasture. But let's take the caption first and then we'll just go straight
Of
to
course.
it.
It says Jakba, greener pastures getting nearer, and that's on page 4 of the Weekend Trust.
But have you seen the illustration of this? Are we now Jakparing in a truck?
Jakba in each way, any which
Anyway.
way. And it's actually not a good one.
It's not sincere. That means the desperation has come to play. Any means, anyhow, I want to just go
Leave
out
the
of this
country.
and just leave this
And
country.
the issue is for me, you don't even go to some very, pardon me, very credible
credible place to see.
places. You see people Jakba into, like we said, Libya. Even though Libya, of course, has a bit of strong economy, but
Yeah.
in my estimation, Nigerians should not be Jakba into Libya
But
or countries like that.
we have the thing is just for opportunities to meet with people for them to be able to get what they want, and then but for me I'm not saying if you want to travel or go for where you have eligibility to be able to work and you're comfortable. Don't just jump out of it because you're trying to make ends meet and you get trapped into a place that forever in your lifetime you just keep saying, why did I take that step? Some people lose their lives in the course
Certainly.
of trying to just get out of the
And,
space.
more importantly, do it using the right channels, like you said. So the people who struggle, they go on foot, some of them on boat, and they die in the process. If you want to leave the country, if you must, do it the right way.
Okay. Well, we hope people are listening and they can take up that. That's on page 4. Let's go above that story. We have I am happy. I am a happy and active retiree. Ambassador Balasani speaking of them on page 14. We also still stuck with the doctors. There we have 12,000 doctors down, tools as strike begins. That's on page 8. We talked about that earlier. That's crippling the medical sector there. We also have beyond the final whistle, post-football lives of Nigerian icons. That's on page 38 as well of the Weekend Trust there. Well, that's talking about football. Where's the way forward after football? What happens? Are they looked after?
Well, that's one story that has been making the rounds. We've seen ex-footballers come out and say that the country abandoned us after we gave all our all. But people actually gave a counter-argument.
Yes.
That you played active football and you got paid good money. So why didn't you invest this money? Why didn't you plan your
yourself?
Life?
There's a plan for retirement. I thought when you're working, plan your hairstyle. People don't look at the life after the stardom. Stardom will always come and go. And also money, for me, I see money as the way you treat money, the money also treats you the same way.
Like you said, so stardom is something that is sometimes deceitful. It could get you carried away and you don't plan for the future. But like you said, someone said, once you start a venture, start planning for the retirement.
Okay.
And I think they should take you and make a plan for whatever it is you're doing in life.
Okay.
Yes.
So let's take a quick look to other stories. Let's see this one that says politicians who parted ways with benefactors. Well, that story has its own, and it has some pictures there showing what the difference is and what parties and what the
actors are involved.
Yes. So pick up that story on page 9 and find out more on that story.
And then below that we see another headline that says 3 suspected robbers escape lynching in Abuja, our own federal capital territory. And that's on page 18 of the Weekend Trust.
They escaped. That's what I'm sure that why they escaped. The police had picked them up.
Yes, police were
that's why
to
they
save them.
Well,
you know, I'm not really a fan or
Jungle Justice.
Jungle Justice. Even as much as these people, some of them are really heartless, but we should follow the right channels so that it doesn't become an avenue for people to exploit fellow citizens, that is.
Okay, well, let's move away from the Weekend Trust and also tell, because that's all the stories that made the headlines
on the Weekend
Trust. Let's quickly tell you what stories made the headlines with the Nation newspaper. Nation newspaper has its own story and it's different whole right up to all what we've been taking that leads the Nation newspaper. It says refineries scandal, EFCC scales up probe, orders carry to reports daily. And we also have a sex on the writer that says ex-NNPCL boss orders to face trial soon. And we also have the next one that says anti-graft agency secures court order to detain Sunji Mobutu, the CEO there, Sunji Moto, CEO there. That's all on page 4. Well, are you surprised, Mukhtar?
I'm not actually surprised because we've had, like we said, that industry has been one that has been riddled with a lot of controversies, a lot of accusations. So I'm not really surprised to see the EFCC going after some principal actors in that particular sector. I just hope that it's carried out to the letter and justice is done and the right people should be prosecuted, because like we said earlier, that will send a message. We need to start sending messages that are clear that Nigeria would not longer tolerate corruptions and looting of our public funds.
Okay. All right. Well, that story, like I said, is on page 4. Pick it up and find out all the details as concerned that story on page 4.
And moving above that mass headline, we see a headline we've taken before that says patients stranded in hospitals as resident doctors begin strike, and that is on page 3. Page 5 rather of the Nation's newspaper is the same headline we've talked about, the incessant strike in the health sector. And moving away from that, we have Tinubu's policies good for economy, says Nigerian Economic Society. And that is on page
That story is 6. On page 6 there where we have it. Well, that's a whole lot happening there, and we've seen a lot of talks coming to say they come, and a lot of counter conversations that's following a lot of even the tax.
Yes, with this particular headline, people have said the policies are good, the policies would yield results, but the people are asking when And why are we not seeing these policies commensurate with our standard of living?
Exactly.
We've seen our currencies decline or maybe have a stagnant particular, it's not moving upward or downwards, but it's not translating to the people's lives getting better. That's what people have said. But this economist here is having a different
and
thought.
people tell you that it takes time for policies, the implementation process to go and for people to feel it.
Time is not something you have. You have 4 years, and that's how we've heard before that.
Time will tell,
yes,
and it's
time
going
will
to
tell,
get better.
and it doesn't get better.
Okay.
I hope this is a different narrative, basically.
Okay, well, we'll still on the Dangote as well. We have Dangote and Nupeng streamline the deal at fresh meeting with the DSS. We have him also there. We also have other stories quickly. Still talk about Hilda Baci as well. Completes jollof rice challenge awaits Guinness verdict. That's also that.
Yes.
Let's quickly move away from that and see Rivers Administrator Ibas. I have fulfilled my presidential mandate.
If he says he has, because the president gave him a mandate, and that mandate is about to elapse, and democracy is about to be restored in Rivers State.
Okay, there's a story here. Catholic priest apologizes for breaking bottles at female members' meeting. Okay, for more of that story, please pick up a copy of the paper and find out what led to that. The good thing is he has apologized.
Yes, he has. That is something that should not happen, but to err is human and to forgive is divine.
All right, let's quickly. Well, that's the much we can take with the Nation newspaper. Let's quickly tell you other stories. With This Day newspaper has its own story too. Let's start with the story that made the headline above the masthead. There it says recapitalization with 200 days to deadline. Banks intensify efforts to scale hurdle.
And away from that, just below, we see DSS brokers fresh truce between Nupeng and Dangote refinery. And that is on page 6 of This Day newspaper.
Okay, and we also have other stories where it says ahead of emergency rule expiration, Ibas says he has fulfilled Tinubu's mandates in Rivers State. So what we had earlier with the other paper.
Yes, and above that, we have dignitaries pay final respect as Toyin Abiola is laid to rest.
Okay, well, we also have the picture there depicting the burial, the respect of Toyin Abiola there, where they stood to honor him, giving him his final respect as he's been laid to rest. Well, that's the much of it we have there with This Day. Let's quickly take, I think, our last paper for the day.
And that is going to be the Saturday Tribune.
Yeah.
And it leads with this mass headline which says, Federal Government, SSS, meets Nupeng, Dangote, asks them to stop war. And there's a rider that says refinery to roll out 1,500 trucks on Monday. Details of that is on page 3 of the Saturday Tribune.
Okay, we also have another story above the masthead that says ruling houses jostle for throne of Osun Oba jailed in Lagos, in US. Right, taking back to Lagos.
He wishes he would be in Lagos at this moment.
But at this moment he's in the US.
Yes.
And that story is on the page there of page 8 and I think 25 there on the Saturday Tribune. We also have other stories there that says Ibadan court says woman is ex-husband's tenant, orders her out of house.
Okay.
I'm trying to
wrap my head around that headline. I think I have to pick up this paper and see details.
You need to find out because
it's a really interesting story.
Okay, why you do that? Let's also pick the earlier story we started with earlier in our first part that says Airpeace, NSIB, fuel overtaxed pilots. That story is on page 4. We talked about that earlier.
Yes, and below that we have AFCTA's Unlock Oil's Prosperity, and that is the Secretary General Mene, and the details of that is on page 3 of the Saturday Tribune.
Okay, let's see what's happening in Osun State. Osun 2026, artisans, market women, and traders drum support for Adeleke, asks FG to release Osun local government funds. See details on page 3 of the Tribune newspaper there. Well, that's the much we can take on newspaper review right now. We've given you all the stories that made the headline, from the resident doctors strike, which has crippled the medical scene where we have sector where we have a lot of people.
Yes.
I also have there in South Africa xenophobia not helping at all, where we have women giving birth on bare floor, which is not a good thing at all. We also have Hidebache making us proud, trying to set in that Guinness book of record. We hope that Guinness would
certify her as soon as possible, and of course, the Dangote story,
back and
which made Road with Nupeng, which we hope would be resolved and sanity return to our oil sector.
Well, all of those stories making the headlines, and we want to pick up a copy of these papers and get acquainted with the stories that are making the headlines for today, Saturday. Well, it's still Global Morning.
Certainly is.
And we're moving to a discussion segment where we have in-depth analysis to talk about our safety, our community, and how well we can be safe to move around.
That's a very important and timely topic, if you ask me.
Okay. It's still Global Morning. Don't go anywhere. Stay with us as our guest joins us shortly on Global Morning.
Global Morning is your top morning show here on Global Television.
We bring you fresh news updates daily while delving into a variety of current affairs and topics.
And at the same time, keeping you well informed about important events, both national and internationals.
Global Morning serves as a valuable source of information, helping viewers like you start your day well informed.
Stay connected from Monday through Sunday to a wide range of latest news making rounds on Global Morning.
We're on the road to protest.
And the president meets all of our demands.
This is Global Morning.
Welcome back. It's still Global Morning, and like I said, we're delving into a very serious conversation that has to do with our safety, our security, and the way forward to safety of us. I refer to us because I'm also part of it. as Nigerians and to see how well we can go and build ourselves and to be able to trust ourselves each time we go around our environment to see that we're safe. Well, the focus will be on community policing, the challenges and the prospects of how this can be put in place for us as a nation. But we have other stories also which will bring in the course of the conversation or this discussion where we look at the measures, the issue of the banditry, the border, and how all of that can be put to make the environment safe, make Nigerians feel they are safe. But let's quickly run you through a bit of this. What is community policing? A lot of people have been clamoring for. Community policing, often seen as a pathway to state policing, has become a major talking point in Nigerian security debates, with the rising insecurity from banditry, kidnapping, and armed robbery to farmer-headed clashes. The question is whether Nigeria can continue relying solely on a centralized police system. Well, we'll look at all that conversation and look at the rationale for state policing, or we call it community policing as well. And we'll look at Nigerians' diversity and the vast size which make localized policing appealing. We'll also look at security outfit like the Matako, who has been, which was established sometime in the southwest, and also the Wago in the southeast, showing the growing demand for regional and regionally tailored policing. All of this conversation is what we'll focus our energy on and see what way we can build around community policing in Nigeria. Well, with all of this focus, I have an amazing guest who will be joining me to delve on all of this conversation to bring to bear what's the way forward, where can we go, what's the narration around all of this for Nigerian safekeep. Well, I have my guest with me in person of the chairman, Police Community Relations Committee, the PCRC in the FCT, and in the person of Dr. Rufus Egbegba. It's good to have you. Good morning.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
Well, all of this conversation is playing around you because you're the chairman and you've been looking at the focus for community policing and how Nigerians can be safe. But let me quickly start with you. What's the role of PCRC in all of this clamor for state policing?
The Police Community Relations Committee was established in the year 1984 by the former Inspector General of Police with the intention of bringing in communities, local people in ensuring security in the environment, providing intelligence to police, providing logistics, and also ensuring that there's good and harmonious relationship between the police and the community. And also to ensure that the police also works within the ambit of its operations by ensuring that the people watch over the police, to ensure that the police carry out its functions effectively. So for community policing, the PCRC is basically to work closely with the police for more effectiveness in areas of security. And it has been very wonderful and greater relationship within the police. And the community has been encouraged by the PCRC.
Well, we know that security is not just for the police alone. Like we've always had a conversation going on saying that security is everybody's business. How have you been able to relate? Because like you said, PCRC is working in line with the police to also see this is put in place. In terms of intelligence gathering, how would this set the pace for community policing?
Yes, the Police Community Relations Committee has been very effective in providing intelligence, not just to the police alone, because what we project is that provide intelligence to the nearest security outfit, that the police, the DSS, the Nigerian Army, or whatever, or the Civil Defense Corps. But I think the intention of the PCRC is a very wonderful one, and I can tell you, with the PCRC, lots of intelligence have been provided. Recently, there was a trending video on a man who stole a car, I think in Cuba, and we got somebody who reported that he knows the man very well, and information was provided to the police, and the man was apprehended, even though the man was still trying to deny that he is not the person. But I think they can really identify whether he's the person or not.
I think I saw that picture of the man because a colleague of ours, of mine, also had her car stolen, and he was portrayed that if he is part of this he should also be able to tell what. But I like the fact that the information, the intelligence guidance has also gone out a long way to put in all of this. But let's quickly look at formalizing state policing. We have the issue of insecurity, the fight against all of this. Could formalizing state police strengthen Nigerians' fight against insecurity at the grassroots points? Because that's where we have the challenges.
I personally, I'm not speaking for the PCRC in this regard, but I believe in the state police. The state police is very important, critical at this period of the Nigerian security emergency stage. I think one thing is that the state police, the fear is that the likelihood of maybe the governors or those in control use it to abuse citizens' rights and other violation, and also use it to attack perceived enemies. Okay. Yes, there are clauses that can be put into such act by amending first of all, we have to amend the constitution to ensure that the states now have the power to have formal police. Okay. In that case, there could be a clause that giving the federal police so much power that in the event the state police becomes overbearing, the federal police moves in, or even the state police can be suspended, while the federal police takes charge of such operations. And also, when any citizen complains about the state police, the federal police should take over such matters. So there must be a serious clause in that act to make sure that the state police is not abused. But with the state police being in place, I think most of this local banditry, armed robbery, kidnapping might be brought to the BRS anymore, because the police currently is so highly overstretched, even the military, all the security apparatus. So we need more such apparatus. And one danger that we have presently with current arrangement of the states, having regional policing or regional security outfits or state security outfits that are being armed without amendment of the constitution. I think if this matter is raised, it puts a very serious danger, because these institutions can be disbanded, and the members of this institution will become a threat to the society because they are already used to what arms are being used for. And apart from that, they want to have a livelihood, and that has been their livelihood. The earlier this is done. Currently, you can discover nearly all the states have various security institutions. Exactly. And there have been issues, particularly there's one state in the east. So we need to properly align this with the constitution. But the state police, it should be seen as one of the emergency measures we should put in place as quickly as possible. Okay,
I like the fact that you centered the conversation around the legal framework, the implementation, the hurdles, because let's look at, for instance, the constitutional and legal hurdles. Nigerians' 1999 constitution centralizes policing powers in the federal government, like you mentioned, and there's issue of funding and logistics. Many states struggle to pay salaries. How would they sustain a police force if they are given the opportunity?
You see, currently the state governors have what is called security vote. Okay. And I tell you, the security vote has not been applied as ought to be. If with such enormous amount of money being allocated for security vote by governors and that are not properly utilized, that can be effectively applied for the state police. And apart from that, there are other measures. There could be indirect measure of taxation, just including some little percentage in some areas that may not even be felt, but the people will pay for it. But the current security challenge requires urgent attention.
Okay, I'm going to buy your thoughts on that, because you understand this as well. But you mentioned the issue of abuse, which is a focus I am also concerned about, and I know a lot of people are also concerned. The fear of abuse concerns that governors might weaponize the state police against the political opponent itself, looking at a democratic process and democracy as we have. So
yes, it can be abused, but I think there are cases of where state governors have demolished their political opponents, withdrawn their permits of their land and all those things. The act needs to be properly subjected to public review when a bill is drafted, so that we ensure that such abuses are properly controlled, and the federal police must be given so much power so that in case of abuse, the federal police have to come in. And one other thing we are having as a failure, the Attorney General, Minister of Justice and Attorney General of the Federation has not really done well for this country. Unless we need to separate the Attorney General's office or the Minister of Justice office, because there are some cases where it's very clear, as the first law officer, you need to interpret and properly advise. But most times, he keeps quiet. And you allow people to go through hurdles of litigation, hurdles of conflict, and here and there. He needs to open up his mouth and say, this is what it ought to be. If anybody doubts, that person can go to court. But he should open his mouth and guide the Nigerian government appropriately.
Yes, with the fact that you've looked about clauses of scrutiny to all of this fact, but let's look at standards and trainings for the professionals. If you have the police, let's say for instance, this bill is raised and it is brought to bear that we now have state policing for the community, would there be provisions? Because obviously they need that training. A lot of them need to understand people and how they flow with the community at that level.
Yes, the training, capacity building, community training is very critical. The Nigerian police does not, we cannot say the Nigerian police is not well trained. The Nigerian police is well trained. The Department of State Services is also has such powers to train some of these bodies. Even in the Nigerian Army, we have some of the best institutions. Other Africans are coming to have trainings in Nigeria. So the training is not a challenge, but the character and the quality of human beings that should be put into such organizations need to be properly examined. In that case, communities must also be involved. But like the police community relation must also be involved in the selection of those who will be members of the state police force.
Because what I'm looking at that is because of the accountability, because like you mentioned, character is key. You could have someone who's fine upstairs, but attitude-wise, in how to relate to certain sensitive issues is what I'm looking at.
Yes, they must be trained on human rights protection, must also be trained on intelligence. They must also be trained to ensure that they abide by the codes that gives them the operation. So there are a lot to be put in place, but the bill must be subjected to public debate, submission of, and they must take consideration to that. And the police should not be seen as governor's police, but the people's police.
Okay.
People's police.
While we agreed to the fact that state policing will also create jobs and build resilience against local crimes and also create opportunity for them to trust, because the essence is for intelligence gathering around all of this, there also has to be trust built among them. Just like you said, they need to be trained properly, they need to be guided on human rights violations, because we've had several cases where some communities are scared of even going to reach out to get information out because they're scared of what the counter reaction will be.
That is why you see citizens resorting to jungle justice.
Exactly.
Because let me tell you, the issue of a lot of people have actually been killed innocently through jungle justice by enemies framing them up. But I think if the police, all the security forces and the judiciary are doing their duty the way it ought to be, jungle justice will be reduced. Because people believe when people are arrested, you see them back on the street, threatening communities, threatening individuals, because they believe the justice system is skewed, justice system is not effective. So we need to look at all this holistically. And again, one other critical aspect we must look at. The remuneration, the salaries, and whatever must be adequate, so that they will know that they are working for something and they are ready to die for something.
Okay. Because I see in other climes where we have security experts or the operatives going the extra mile, because like you mentioned, remuneration is encouraging. They are sure of their family getting the best out of whatever stress they put themselves across to. So if that is not put in place, how do we, because we are looking at how we are modeling from other clients and the lessons learned. Do we see ourselves doing better or doing more?
We have not reached the level we ought to be. You see, one of that in the state police structure we must study the U.S. system of police system. We must look at their system, then also bring it to Nigeria and domesticate it in a way that it will fit into our system. Just like current U.S. democracy, the way it is brought into the Nigerian system has not actually failed because we have not integrated national system into it. We have not integrated, our culture, our values is not embedded in the current democracy we have. It is rather promoting corruption, trying to promote class, class marginalization and class exaltation above the common man that the system ought to protect. So we must look at all these issues very critically. In Nigeria, we have experts, we have intelligent people, but sometimes we have the wrong people in places that they shouldn't be. So those things we need to look at our national system.
Okay.
Patriotism is key.
Exactly, because I was about to say that the thing is about creating the state policing or community policing is not like it's not a good call, because police needs to be close to people where there are emergencies, where there are cases for their safety. But one concern Nigerians usually throw to the table is, do Nigerians trust the local police, or do they just afraid of the abuse themselves? Because like you mentioned, yes, we have them trained, but they need to understand the human rights violations and all of those things. And because if there's trust, there's a breach of trust. All of this cannot play out well, because the essence is to bring the police close to the people and the people's safety. Do you think Nigerians trust the local policing?
You see, why the Police Community Relation Committee is established, one of the reasons is to establish trust between the community and the police, for the community to have trust on the police, and that is being actualized gradually. I must also give it to our national chairman of the PCRC. He has been able to go around with nearly all the police, all the states and some of these zones, preaching the need for them to work with the Police Community Relation Committee, and this has been effective, and the police is gradually seeing the PCRC. Initially they saw the PCRC as, oh, they are coming to meddle into our affairs, but currently they are seeing the need that this PCRC is very important for them to achieve effectiveness, achieve support, and otherwise. So I think that the trust must be built, and the police must also see the people that we are here to protect them.
So when this is achieved, with all of that's put in place, what's the way you think checks and balances can be guaranteed in checkmating?
Okay, if you see yes, there are checks and balances already in place, right? Like you see, even the police they themselves, there are clauses that you have seen cases where former IG was handcuffed. You have seen the case where former commissioners, even currently, was some months ago, former Inspector General of Assistant Inspector General of Police was demoted somewhere. Somebody are still facing prosecution, and the Police Service Commission currently has been very effective. And you see, they promote officers when due, and they also discipline officers when you petition. And the Ministry of Police Affairs is not doing enough. They are not doing. Their impact on the police is not felt. The Police Service Commission is more effective. So if the Ministry of Police Affairs is not effective, you rather disband the ministry and allocate such resources to the commission, so that the commission can really do its work. The commission promotes police officers as when due. They also discipline them when they err. So while creating Ministry of Police Affairs, you don't hear about what they do for the police. They don't make any comment. Although there is also a department there that also ensures that when people complain, they look into the matter. But the ministry needs to probably reject.
Okay, I like the fact that you said they need to reject, because this is one thing I focus on saying, is Nigeria really ready for the full state policing, or should we strengthen community policing within the federal framework first?
I would say the various institutions have various input and relevance. There are some states where you have budget for the PCRC, particularly some of the states in the western states. In the west, they allocate some resources to the PCRC, and they also make them members of the Security Council. Other states should emulate that as complementary to the police activity. And the state police is also very effective. When you now have such a PCRC in the states, monitoring the activities of the police, providing intelligence for the police, providing the logistics within their ambit, I tell you, Nigeria will be a better place where human rights and justice and rule of law will prevail.
Well, we're going to bank on all of this conversation. I know that it is time for us, if this comes to play, that if we have community policing put in place, the challenges or the fears Nigerians have in their mind would actually be downplayed if trust is built with understanding that it is something that is needed at the point in time.
And when the community is also involved.
Exactly. The community needs to be involved for the trust to stand tall, and then all of the
to be as a watchdog or to scrutinize the activities.
Exactly. So all of that is the focus, which the PRC also, and also my guest is also pointing out that it's possible. And but let's come back to the FCT. There's a trend in the FCT around. We have people who stand on the streets, who take money, who harass motorists. Is that supposed to be a thing we should condone? Because people on a daily see, we refer to them as touts, jump into vehicles and say they walk with AMAC and all that. Is that even safe for people? Road safety also
it is a very primitive way of collecting tax or enforcing anything at all. Nigeria has passed the level of bringing people, blocking roads, harassing people, collecting that you don't have this, but there are ways in civilized society. They should modernize. FCT is too big and so civilized. It's a multipolitan, territory. We shouldn't allow that at all. I'm happy that the Commissioner of Police have said they are going to enforce to arrest all those who are involved in collecting, disturbing motorists on the highway. And recently, a family was destroyed through this action. And I think that calls for a serious concern by relevant authorities of Federal Capital Territory. The minister should be on top of this. And also the local governments, they should remove their men from the streets. And we're also promising them that the Police Community Relations Committee will have ordered that anybody found doing that should be reported to the nearest police station and be arrested.
Okay.
That is not a way. There's no law that permits that. It's a violation of human rights and also a disturbance of Nigerian citizens.
All right.
Such people should be arrested.
Well, I have a whole lot of issue around the issue of banditry and the border, which we look at safety. We talk about community policing, how this can put across the state level, the community level, to ensure that there's safety for people. But let's take a report on the IGP's meeting with the border police, where he spoke about where there's need to pay attention across the border of Nigeria. We'll have our reports, and when we come back, we'll jump into that conversation and how safe our borders are even for us as a nation before we look at the community policing playing their own role as well. Let's take that report quickly.
Border security remains one of the Nigerian biggest challenges, fueling internal crisis and cross-border crimes. The Inspector General of Police, Kayode Egbetokun, directed all commanders of border patrol base to strengthen patrol and file detailed monthly reports on their activities. Egbetokun emphasized that strong border security is vital to national safety and regional stability, urging personnel to return to their duty post with renewed commitment.
This report must highlight, at the very least, your successes in intercepting arms and ammunition, seizing narcotics and other contraband, and disrupting human trafficking networks while rescuing victims and holding traffickers to account.
The police boss says the force is investing in surveillance system, drone technology and data analysis to improve border management, assuring that officers will be adequately equipped to meet the task.
Technology, we're already investing in surveillance systems, drone technologies, and other data analytics and others. So we continue to provide the modern tools that will improve the performance of our officers at their duty post.
It is believed that effective monitoring coupled with modern technology will help close long exploited loopholes. Kike Lomo Okere, Global Television News.
Well, there you have it, where the IGP has spoken about the need for the border closure to be put in place.